Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Monday edition of the show as we attempt to figure out what is going on with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a second loss in a row, and this one a really deflating one, as they had many opportunities to defeat the Atlanta Falcons, but came up short in the end. So the big question is, are personnel changes coming for the Bucs? I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is my fellow co-host and colleague from PewterReport.com, the face that runs the place at Pewter Report, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, how are we feeling this Monday afternoon?
Ready to flush that game and get onto the Bills. I think, like the players. That was kind of a deflating loss if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan for sure, and of course the players and coaches feel the same way. That was a gut punch, man. But it wasn't a knockout blow, as we talked about last night on our post-game Pewter Report podcast. Matt, there's still 11 games left in this season, right? That's a lot of football to be played. This was an opportunity that was missed because Tampa Bay really had a chance to get a little bit of a stranglehold on the NFC South, moving to 2-0, getting a win over the Falcons and the Saints. Those two obviously are the biggest threats to win the division outside of Tampa Bay. I think the Panthers are kind of a lost cause. But Matt, it's one of those that you don't want this game to come back to haunt you in January and say, wow, we're a game short, right? And this was a winnable game. I think we've talked about this before. Buccaneer fans need to kind of readjust their expectations for this season. They're not a team that's going to beat the 49ers. They didn't beat the Lions. They didn't beat the Eagles. They're not an upper echelon team. This is not a Super Bowl caliber team. This is a maybe fringe playoff team, maybe a team that wins the division. Probably won't get enough wins to enter as a wild card. So you got to win the winnable games, Matt. And yesterday was a very winnable game, and they let one slide.
That's what makes it that much more frustrating, because when we talked about before the season began, when we navigated through the schedule and kind of made our season predictions and how this team could make the playoffs, we reiterated time and time again that, yes, you have to win the winnable games, and directly in front of the NFC South, you got to take advantage of beating the Panthers twice, which hopefully the Bucs should, but nothing is guaranteed with this team at the moment. And you got to split with the Saints and the Falcons. And they obviously did a good job starting off, getting that win on the road against New Orleans. Right. But when you talk about splitting, odds are you think, okay, you win your home game against your division rival, and then whatever happens on the road. So be it. Now it makes it that much tougher sledding for the Bucs since they lost at home to the Atlanta Falcons, so they'll have to get that split next time when they go to Atlanta. And the Bucs have not been a pretty good home team this season by any means. So maybe going on the road this week on a short week to Buffalo might just be a recipe for this team. And we have a little bit of breaking news from Scott Smith, the team reporter. He tweeted out that the Buccaneers have designated running back Chase Edmonds for return from injured reserve. He could be activated at any time over the next 3 weeks. So I'm not saying this is a savior by any means, but as bad as the running game has been for the Bucs, Chase Edmonds was a lone, very, very, very small bright spot when he had a big run a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not necessarily going to say help is on the way, but there is another option in the deck of running back cards that really no one's shown up. It's you play blackjack, you're looking for a king, queen, or an ace, and you ended up with a 2, and that's kind of happened with the Bucs run game early on this season.
And the thing is with Edmonds, he's still 6 weeks into the season, 6 games into the season. Really, we're in week 8 now, but he still has the longest run of the year, 14 yards. And that was his first carry against the Bears, where he did this little first down sign. And that's kind of pathetic, right? That he still has the longest run of the season, and it's only 14 yards, Matt. It wasn't like a 25-yarder or a 40-yarder. We're talking a 14-yard run. But you know what? Out of the running backs that we've seen, this is the guy with maybe the most acceleration. This is the guy that has maybe the most juice and burst. And he played in a zone scheme in Denver and also in Miami. So he might be the better fit. The problem with him in his career, and certainly here in Tampa Bay, and we saw it in the offseason, Matt, is just staying healthy. He missed time in the OTAs. He missed time in the preseason. He's now missed time in the regular season. He gets nicked up. He gets injured. But you know what? Stick him out there and run him until he gets hurt again. Okay.
Yeah.
Because right now
I'm in agreement.
Tomorrow's not guaranteed. You gotta play for today, and you run that guy. And if he gets hurt, then at least you got some production out of him. But he's not going to help you on the bench. And I've seen enough of Keyshawn Vaughn. I think I've made that pretty clear. I think he needs to be replaced and probably inactive. I would go with Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds over Keyshawn Vaughn from this point going forward. And when Dave Canales talks tomorrow, I'm going to ask some very pointed questions about what exactly he sees from Keyshawn Vaughn that we're not seeing, because this guy is a tackle for loss waiting to happen, and doesn't really bring much to the table.
The Bucs have no margin for error when it comes to the run game. And I understand the injury history of Chase Edmonds. By the way, thank you, Michael, for the $1.99 super chat. It says run game's holding the offense back. I'm in full agreement there.
Yeah.
We need Edmonds. Again, kind of like what we already talked about. I don't necessarily know if Chase Edmonds is the exact answer, but he's kind of the best answer, at least for running back two at the moment. And yes, he's injury prone, but in this case scenario, it's kind of run him until the wheels fall off.
That's right.
I'm not wishing pain or anything on Chase Edmonds. I hope he's healthy for the rest of the season and for the rest of his career. But odds are he's probably going to get hurt again. So you got to use him while you can, especially in this matchup against the Buffalo Bills, where, again, before the season, you go, oh, man, Thursday Night Football against the Bills in Buffalo, not great. If there were any time to play the Buffalo Bills, it would be right now when they heavily struggled over the last two games. I know they beat the Giants on Sunday Night Football, but they did not look good.
No, they did not.
Barely survived that game, and then they lost to the lowly New England Patriots yesterday. So if there's any time to play the Bills, this is the moment for the Bucs to maybe pull off a big upset win.
Yeah, and the thing too is of course there'll be fans out there that say, well, yeah, but the Bills they're going to be pissed off coming off a loss, right? Well, that doesn't mean anything anymore. It really doesn't. Yeah. The Bucs were supposedly pissed off coming off a loss to the Lions and didn't really translate to the field on Sunday against the Falcons yesterday. So, that sounds good. It's kind of like, media and fan conjecture, but really at the end of the day, it's you got to line up and play. And once the opening kickoff happens for both these teams on Thursday Night Football, what happened last week does not matter. It's not like the Bills are, they're not going to be thinking about the Patriots game at all on Thursday night, nor are the Buccaneers going to be thinking about losses to the Lions or the Falcons on Thursday night. You just can't do that.
Right. And what does that even mean? Like, are the Bills going to be more pissed off than the Bucs? Like, they both lost,
Exactly.
And so we'll see. But we got another super chat from Lucas Patiste. Thank you very much, Lucas, for the $1.99 super chat, who says, another week closer to D. Delaney being the starter. Well, who knows? Because Todd Bowles is not committing to starting anyone new in either starting lineup. But I think this has to be the move. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, the Bucs defense has still played very well. So Ryan Neal's struggles and missing that tackle against Kyle Pitts is a little glaring spot on overall what has been a really good defense. I mean, the last 3 games, they've allowed a total of 3 touchdowns. So essentially 1 touchdown per game. The defense is not the problem for why the Bucs are losing. But if you can tweak a couple different things, like, again, if D. Delaney's in that game against the Lions, does he get the pass breakup? Does he create another turnover that Ryan Neal just hasn't done yet? There has to be moves made for this team as a whole. And certainly D. Delaney over Ryan Neal might be one of those best options. Yeah.
And I didn't expect Todd Bowles to come out and answer your question, Matt. Good question, by the way. But I didn't expect him to say, yes, Matt, as a matter of fact, we are going to make some changes.
Yeah.
I didn't. And if they're going to, they're not going to telegraph that in a press conference. They're just not. They're going to let the Bills figure that out on Thursday when a different player gets into the lineup. But Todd Bowles, he's got plenty of faults, right? I mean, every head coach does. But the thing with Bowles is you have to remember last year And I know he's kind of hands off on the offensive side. So maybe this was a Byron Leftwich thing, and maybe this was a Harold Goodwin and Joe Gilbert thing more than it was a Bowles thing, but he's still the head coach. But they waited so long, Matt. They waited so long to replace a struggling Luke Gedeke at left guard with Nick Leverett. And that probably cost them some games. I mean, go back to that Steelers game. The Steelers had one guy, one playmaker. TJ Watt was out. Minka Fitzpatrick was out. Their entire secondary was out. They had one game wrecker on that team. That was Cameron Hayward. And, he wrecked the game because they left him one-on-one with Gedeke a couple times, and he got a sack and had a big stop on third down. And you have to be a little bit more reactionary and look at the film. And we've now been through 6 games, right? That's a third of the season, essentially. Ryan Neal, the only plays he's made so far are plays for the other team, right? Allowing the Lions to score a touchdown to Jamison Williams, and then allowing the Kyle Pitts catch and run yesterday that got them into field goal position to win the game. And you can't do that. You have to be a playmaker. And if you're not, then you don't belong on the field, right? Like you give up your chance to start when you don't perform well. And he's clearly not performing well. And so by not putting in D. Delaney, the coaches are saying, well, Ryan Neal's just better than D. Delaney. How do you know, right? There's a thing called gamers, right? Where players play better under the lights than they do in practice. And D. Delaney's got 2 interceptions this year, right? And Matt, we've seen in Tampa before, Andrew Adams is a player, right? Who you look at him and you say, not starting caliber, right? But when pressed into duty, he's okay.
Game on Cam Newton.
Exactly.
Historic game. Yeah.
Exactly. Keith Tandy was kind of that guy for a while, right? Not the ideal starter, but a guy that can kind of make things happen a little bit and get you through a season or, a couple of games as an interim starter. I don't know. I like the film that I saw with D. Delaney, who played pretty much the entire game for Ryan Neal at strong safety in New Orleans, where he also had an interception on Jameis Winston. Give him a shot and see, right? I mean, we know what Ryan Neal can do. I don't think Ryan Neal, after training camp in the preseason in 6 games, is not going to magically turn it on and be a fit. He is who he is, right? Which is a guy that the Seattle Seahawks didn't start. He only started because Jamal Adams got hurt. Then Adams, gets back and they don't want Ryan Neal anymore. Matter of fact, they rescinded his tender. They went with another player, Giants safety, Julian Love, in the offseason. So this was a guy that, despite the high PFF grade, right, the Seahawks didn't want. He was a homegrown Seahawk, undrafted free agent. And so I know Jason Light and Todd Bowles were like, "Ooh, we got a little bit of a coup here. We stole this guy." Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe the Seahawks just said, "No, thanks."
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is let's remember that Ryan Neal, this is his first time being a full-time starter by choice of the head coach and the defensive coordinator. He only started for Seattle, as you said, because there were injuries to their secondary, most namely Jamal Adams. So this was, like we've talked about in other situations, Baker Mayfield, this was his opportunity to prove that he can be a continuous full-time starter at quarterback.
Right.
This was also an audition for Ryan Neal to prove that he can be an every game starting safety in the NFL. He's not signed to a long contract or anything like that.
Right.
And so far, the results have not been in the favor of Ryan Neal and what the Tampa Bay's defense wants to do. And when it comes down to who makes the big plays, D. Delaney's been one of those guys that have made the big plays. That's really as simple as it gets. You can watch all the tape. You can look at this stat and look at PFF and all these things. Who's making the big plays? You can point to Antoine Winfield Jr., of course, but outside of that, Christian Izzian's made some plays. D. Delaney's made some plays, and he's not even a guy that's in the lineup enough.
Matt, this guy's not a fluke, man. You were up there for the Jets game, right? He had an interception on the goal line and then had another interception in the game. I think that was overturned due to a penalty.
Penalty, yeah.
Okay, but this guy's around the ball. He makes plays. I'm not saying he's the second coming of Antoine Winfield Jr. I'm just saying he might be better than Ryan Neal. Find out. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
How many more big plays do you need to see your other safety give up, right? It would be different if there were some plays that he's made, an interception, a key pass breakup in the end zone, like we saw with Antoine Winfield Jr. yesterday, punching out the ball. If he had some big plays to balance out the plays that he's given up, then you might say, okay, well, he's coming around and, needs some more reps in the defense, et cetera. I can't remember like a big play that he's made, a really impactful play. Certainly no interceptions, right? No forced fumbles or fumble recoveries, no sacks. Maybe there's a third down stop or two. I mean,
he had one fourth down stop against the Eagles early in the game. Stop the run play. But outside of that, there hasn't really been a signature moment.
Yeah. I will say he did make the touchdown saving tackle on Tyler Algier after Devin White crapped the bed and decided to chase after Desmond Ridder, who was being in the hot pursuit by Antoine Winfield Jr. It wasn't like Ridder was going to gain much of anything on that scramble. And White just had a fifth-year brain fart, I guess. I mean, dumb football play. But he left his man in coverage, and Ridder just goes, whoop, like that. And Tyler Algier is wide open. And Devin White had an awful game. I mean, awful. 5 tackles when the Falcons run the ball 38 times. Are you kidding me? So it wasn't just Ryan Neal. Devin White, awful game yesterday.
And let's also remember that the Falcons ran for over 150 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Bijan Robinson was sick and only had 1 rushing attempt. So Bijan Robinson wasn't even a factor in this game. You can only imagine if he was fully healthy, what he could have done. And last thing I'll say about the hesitancy to make different personnel moves. Like if you put D. Delaney in at safety and it doesn't work out,
right?
Guess what? You just go back to Ryan Neal.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like changing a quarterback where it's going to change all of the chemistry and all of what the offense wants to do. Defense, you get a little more leeway with you can plug in a player here or there. I mean, we've seen in the past with Todd Bowles, going back to when Richard Sherman signed with this team, they were getting cornerbacks off the street, and Todd Bowles was tasked with the job of getting them ready to go for a game on Sunday after they signed on Tuesday and was able to get the job done. So
if you're worried about communication, I mean, D. Delaney's been here 3 years now. So he's used to playing with Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean and Antoine Winfield Jr. and Zion McCollum. He knows this defense. He's a smart guy. So I don't know what the excuse is, but unless things turn around dramatically on Thursday night, I don't see any value in keeping Ryan Neal in the starting lineup. He hasn't deserved the role to start yet.
Yeah, I mean, he was given the opportunity, and it hasn't been too far in between. Let's get to the super chat from Paul. Then we have a couple other super chats, but it's also right around that time. Yeah. So Paul, aka Florida Dreamhouse, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, not going to hate on coaching or players quite yet. Pissed? Yes. Giving up on a team season? Hell no. How we respond to the Bills will tell me a lot. Yeah, I mean, this division is still very much up for grabs. I don't think the Falcons prove by any stretch of the imagination that they are going to run away with the NFC South. It is going to go way down to the wire. We've been saying this for quite a while, that this may not be decided until, week 16, 17, 18, whatever it is. So still a very long way to go. The Bucs have a lot of things to figure it out, but let's not lose all hope just yet.
Yep. All right, Matt, it's that time.
That's right. It's roll call, baby. Where you at, Pewter people? So for those that may not know, we do this on every Monday show, whether it's a win or a loss, or we're in the off season. We love the Pewter people. That's what we call our fans, the people in the comments in the chat. We love you guys so much. We love interacting with everybody as much as we can. So this is a fun way that we do it with everybody watching the show right now. We do it every 4:20 on Mondays. If you guys want to start putting where you are watching the show from, one of us will start talking about whatever topic we want to discuss with the Buccaneers. And in the meantime, we'll put the location where you're watching from on the screen here, starting off with Gary Buff, who is watching from Sarasota, Florida. So feel free to put where you're watching from, because we have great fans all over the country, not just in Tampa, not just in Florida, not even just in the United States. We have great amounts of international fans as well. So let's get it rocking and
all right. Here's a little bit of a rant here. It might not be popular because it involves Dave Canales, and I'm not defending Dave Canales, right? You got to score touchdowns to win. Let's just get that off my chest real quick. Have to score touchdowns in the red zone. Have to. Otherwise, you will lose. And then whatever you do, points wise matters. Whatever you do, yards wise does not, because points win games, yards don't. Having said that, I did like the approach, not all the play calls, but the approach that Dave Canales had on Sunday's game. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why there's a little bit of hope here, because I think that's what everyone's looking for, is a little bit of hope on this Monday after a gut-wrenching loss to the Falcons. And it starts with the fact that Dave Canales said, you know what, we're going to play to our strengths, not our weaknesses. All right, that's a good recognition by the rookie play caller. That bared itself out in the fact that Baker Mayfield, despite the game never being out of reach, right, Matt, for all 4 quarters, this was a close game. Yeah. At no point in time did the Buccaneers have to throw the ball to come back, right? I mean, they were in it the whole way. This was a dogfight of a game. Baker Mayfield dropped back to pass 45 times. 3 of those plays were scrambles for a total of 32 yards, and he completed 27 out of 42 passes. So what does that mean? Well, that means out of the 20 runs, take away those 3 Baker Mayfield scrambles, and Dave Canales only called 17 running plays. Okay, so 45 passes, 17 runs. And he's playing to the strength of this team, which is Mike Evans, 6 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Chris Godwin, 6 catches, 66 yards. And an offensive line that is way better at pass protection than run blocking. So this team does need balance. And it's difficult to thread this needle, because you're not going to get any better at doing something if you avoid it, right? You're always going to be bad. Like if you're like, hey, I'm not good in the weight room, well, I'm not going to go to the gym today. Okay, you're not going to get better. You're not going to get stronger, right? Right, Greg DeCruz, right? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's like, if you avoid the gym and the weight room, you're not going to get any stronger, right? Unless you're doing push-ups at home or something. And that only does so much. So he's playing to the team's strength, which is passing the ball. Now, what that does is that puts more pressure on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has to play really, really well, because he doesn't have that running game to use kind of as a crutch. And Baker Mayfield over the last couple games, really since the bye week, has played slightly above average, not good, and certainly not great. He's got to play better. And this puts a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield, because there's also a reason this guy was jettisoned from Cleveland, and then jettisoned from the Panthers, and then not re-signed by the Rams, right? Can he consistently play good quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Doesn't always have to be great. Might have to be great in a couple games, but he can't be above average. What I mean by that is like C+. I would give Baker Mayfield a C+ yesterday, and probably C-, maybe a D+ against the Lions. And against the Saints, I probably give him, a solid B for that game. Maybe even a B+, because they've struggled so much in the red zone, and he had 3 red zone touchdowns, right? So that's going to be the real challenge now for the Buccaneers. Dave Canales, I think, did the right thing by saying, okay, I'm not going to be stubborn anymore. We're going to try to run the ball, try to get better at it, but I'm not going to force it. We're going to rely on the pass protection of the offensive line. We're going to rely on Mike. We're going to rely on Chris. And we're going to rely on Baker. And we'll see how this plays out, because this team wants to have an identity of being a balanced offense. But they've tried, and they just can't do it. They don't have the tight ends that can block on the perimeter. The interior offensive line is not good. Put the PFF grades up. Matt Filer was the worst out of the 5 offensive linemen yesterday, as I wrote about. I think it's time, when you look at the offensive line, Matt, you and I have talked about it. Nick Leverett, I'm curious, I think he can be a little bit of a spark plug like he was last year at left guard, right? I like him better as a guard. I think you do too. And I'm going to put words in your mouth, but better as a guard than at center, right? And I think Robert Hainsey, he's not great. but I don't know that there's a better center on the team right now. So
No, that's the problem.
Having said that, Cody Mauch, I don't believe is as bad as the PFF grades suggest. And I don't think he's as bad as Luke Gedeke was at left guard last year. So
that I fully agree with.
For right now, I would leave Cody Mauch in there. But Matt Filer, I don't see any upside with Filer. And I'm not saying, you replace him, all of a sudden everything's going to get better on the offensive line. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying the guy's, 31 years old?
Yeah.
He's a free agent. He's not going to be back next year. I don't know that there's a huge upside there. Maybe Nick Leverett can come in and get a little bit more movement because he's younger. He's more athletic. I think he's feistier. And I think Matt Filer's best days are behind him. I'm not saying Matt Filer can't play. Yeah. I'm just saying
there are better options.
Possibly. Yeah. But let's try it. Let's try Aaron Stinney. Let's try Nick Leverett. Because if you keep trotting the same players out there and they keep letting you down, that's coaching malpractice, right? Yeah. It just is. You have some opportunities for some guys that can get in there and maybe make a difference, right? I mean, here's the thing. Aaron Stinney was not starting caliber at all in 2020 until he had to, right? For the
playoffs.
Yeah, for the playoffs, right? When Alex Kappa broke his ankle at Washington. And then you know what Stinney did? He played really credible football. Like he stepped up. Mm-hmm. And so why not give some of these guys, the D. Delaney's, the Nick Leveretts, the Aaron Stinney's, a shot? And like you said, Matt, if it doesn't work out, plug the other guy back in. But at least you tried.
Because the Bucs run game right now, it's not just bad. It is like historically bad.
Yeah.
A Pewter Report alum, Trevor Sikkema, had a tweet about how the Bucs are going to have like the lowest yards per rushing attempt since like 1995 or whatever it is. Like it's getting that historically bad.
Yeah.
Also, what's frustrating, and we talked about on yesterday's show, you mentioned it here as well, that because the tight ends are blocking so well, or so poorly, excuse me, they have not been blocking well.
Right.
Like Rachaad White, we talked about it on yesterday's show after the game. He looked good as a receiver. Like he was impactful. He tied the team lead. Rachaad White,
10 yards a catch,
is pretty good when he's out in space and can make guys miss. Well, how do you get a running back out in space? Counters, sweeps, tosses, things like that. But you can't even get your guy that thrives out in space. You can't get him to do that because Tristan Wirfs can only block one guy. And then you're still relying on Cade Otton and the receivers to get the job done.
Yeah.
And it just won't be the case. But let's get to some more super chats. Thank you to KGH for Life. Thank you for the $5 super chat who says, I just don't understand the Bucs' stubbornness in sticking with the current crop of running backs. Does PR have any insight into this?
Yeah, the insight is Jason Light doesn't draft running backs well at all. He's got 2 third-rounders and Keyshawn Vaughn and Rachaad White. And I hope Chase Edmonds comes back. I don't know if he's going to be back in time for Thursday night. Probably not. We'll see. But they need him back ASAP and see if he can provide some bit of dash to this running game with a little bit of burst and acceleration. I don't know what happened to Sean Tucker. They're going back to upstate New York, Matt. Maybe maybe this is the game where you say, all right, Syracuse, like get out there and do your thing. It wouldn't hurt. I don't understand it. I do know that Jason Light is very hesitant to, to have a situation where you've got running backs that may or may not be available, right? We've floated some names, Javonte Williams. We've floated some names like Rashad Penny. I don't think that they're going to trade for those running backs. I think they should. I think Jason Light likes to hang on to those 3rd and 4th round draft picks. I think that you can probably get Rashad Penny for a late day 3 pick, maybe a 6th or 7th rounder. Why not? I think that if they don't try to upgrade the running back situation this year, it's criminal. I'm not saying get rid of Rachaad White. He's under contract for 2 more years after this. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But Keyshawn Vaughn is not going to be signed next year to a team. He's going to be like Charles Sims. He's going to be a 1 contract guy and then done. And if you cut Keyshawn Vaughn today, I don't see him landing on another team. Maybe a practice squad, but not another team. So I'm all in favor of Jason Light making a move at the running back position because
And
it hasn't come in the draft.
And part of the issue too is I understand the ideology of like you got to have a little patience and wait and see. Can the offense figure it out with the new system? Can Rashad White figure it out and things of that nature? But you know what you're getting with Keyshawn Vaughn, and it's clearly not enough. So I don't know why he's getting opportunities. You don't know what you have with Sean Tucker. You're still trying to figure it out with Rashad White. So I understand like waiting a little bit more with Rashad White, but the Keyshawn Vaughn thing makes absolutely no sense. We got another super chat from Paul, aka Florida Dreamhouse, who said, I saw 2021 Baker Mayfield on Sunday. Tampa Bay is his last chance to be QB1. He has the arm talent and intangibles, but he has to be consistent to succeed. Yeah, I mean, we see some things flare up for Baker. I mean, obviously, he can't teach height, but he still gets balls batted down on a consistent basis all the time. And he really just made some poor throws. He missed Chris Godwin on a big play down the field to the right side. His interception made no sense at all to me.
No,
I mean,
that's right.
Kate Otten was heavily covered on the play. Even that last drive in the red zone, threw a ball into coverage that they were lucky didn't get intercepted. Baker's got to make better throws. And yeah, I mean, consistency is super, super important for a quarterback in this league. And we've seen good and bad Baker so far through this early season.
And Baker Mayfield reminds me so much of Jeff Garcia, former Bucs quarterback, who very similar stature, right? Like a 6 foot, 200 pounds quarterback. And he has to play kind of a frenetic style because he can't see in the pocket, you know, and listen, there's other quarterbacks out there, right, that are vertically challenged. Drew Brees was one, didn't stop him from being one of the best of all time. Russell Wilson's another, Tua in Miami, right? So that Bryce Young now in Carolina is very short quarterback as well. So you're going to have the batted balls, right? Matt, you're exactly spot on there. But also, too, you have to play outside the pocket sometimes because you just can't see, right? When guys have their hands up and you got a 6'6" guard and he's blocking a guy and that guy's got his hand up, it takes away throwing lanes, right? So you got to play outside the pocket, which means you have to play a little bit more of a frenetic style. And Jeff Garcia did have a long career. He entered the league after playing years in the Canadian Football League, but entered the league at age 29, played with the 49ers for several years until 33. Then had a season in Cleveland at 34, then a season in Detroit in 35, and then played for the Eagles in 36, then was the Bucs starter for 2 years, and then finally finished up back in Philly at age 39. And my point is, with Jeff Garcia, he was never good enough or consistent enough to stay in one place. He bounced around the league as a result, and I just don't know, and we'll see how the season plays out. Maybe Baker lights it up and has more of a 2020 season, but yesterday I agree, it looked a little bit more like 2021 Baker.
Jeff Garcia played for a variety of teams in the NFL. Kind of reminds me of the variety of flavors that you can get with Celsius energy drinks. The official
transition
energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast. I love so many of these flavors. The Arctic Vibe is my personal favorite. Peach Vibe is great. Original orange, sparkling watermelon, the strawberry acai, strawberry lemonade as well. Tons of great flavors. There's no sugar and there's no post-energy drink crash or jitters you might get with another product out there. So you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink. Go to the Celsius store locator, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest geographical location where you can pick a Celsius up. Could be, a Walmart, a 7-Eleven, a health and fitness store, or it could also be your bodega. And once you keep going to your bodega and you're like, wow, these are great, but I want them in bulk, you can buy them in bulk. I'd recommend getting the variety pack because variety is the spice of life. And you heard me talk about all the great flavors they have. Just go to Amazon, do their subscribe and save. You can have Celsius sent to your residence whenever you want. You're in charge of it. It could be a week, a month, quarterly, yearly. It's all up to you. Control your own destiny. Make Celsius your number one pick. Celsius, the official sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. And I also real quick wanted to mention another great turnout, I should say, for roll call today. Just
Awesome.
want to give a shout out to
Yeah.
a couple people real quick because we got people from all over.
Yeah.
Some people in Florida, Kyle Miller watching from Orlando.
Awesome.
Internationally, we got Jordan Schneiderman watching from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Want to give a shout out to someone else that's watching internationally, number one Bucs fan from Frankfurt, Germany. And then another person from the U.S., but outside of the state of Florida, RFK 617 is watching from Ohio. Big
Very
win for
cool.
your Buckeyes this
That's
week
right.
against
Yeah.
Penn State. So I thought that would have been fitting. But yeah, appreciate everybody again for a great turnout with roll call. We'll do it again on Monday as well. But let's get back to these super chats because you guys are so awesome. Super chats keep rolling in. We got a $1.99 super chat from Gregory Smith. Thank you very much, Gregory, who says, why didn't we run more at the end of the game to kill time? If we ran one of those times we passed the ball, Falcons would have 15 seconds, not 45. Falcons had their timeouts, though, so odds are they probably would have started calling some of their timeouts based on the incompletions.
And the Bucs
but I would
didn't
like for them to run it on first down as well.
Yeah, the Bucs didn't have a timeout too, right down the stretch. I believe they did not have their timeouts. They
Bowles
used
lost the challenge early on,
right?
Yeah,
and then they used their timeouts so that they got down there with about, I want to say it was like a minute 8 on first and goal. Is that right? It sounds about right. Let me double check.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had 3 shots from the 8-yard line, and they did not have any timeouts, if my memory serves me correctly. And the time on that particular drive was, that's the third quarter. Where's the fourth quarter? Here's the fourth quarter. All right, so they had 3 shots from the 8-yard line, and they only had, let's see, down 8. Yep, 1 minute and 5 seconds is when they had their first play. That was first down.
Yeah,
1 minute and 5 seconds. So the problem is if you run it there, then you're chewing up about 20 seconds, right? Between getting the play, getting tackled, getting to the line. Maybe you're in a huddle, right? Because you want to get the right play call, get everyone on the same page. Now, all of a sudden, the clock is ticking, and you're probably down to about 35 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, and you have to get into the playoff. Let's say Baker Mayfield gets sacked, right? Which he did on third down, right?
Yeah.
Now you have to, you've got to rush your field goal unit out there to get the field goal. And remember, after that third down sack, the Falcons call timeout with 49 seconds left, right? So at the end of the day, the Bucs just got to do a better job. They got to do a better job of scoring touchdowns, right? If you look at what Canales did yesterday, 329 yards. Yards don't win games, points do. So I'm not making excuses there. 50% conversions on third downs, like that's a good clip, right? They're 6 of 12 on third downs. The problem was the penalties that stymied several drives, and then they got down there to the red zone and couldn't cash in with touchdowns. And that's play calling, that's execution, that's on the coaches and the players. So it wasn't good enough, but it wasn't like this Falcons defense was just completely shutting down the Buccaneers. They passed the ball first. They passed it 3-to-1 ratio in terms of pass to run, which I'm okay with. But Baker Mayfield's got to play better. He can't throw that interception. He's got to be more accurate on some of those throws and has got to do a better job scanning the field. I went back and looked. I'm waiting for the All-22, which comes out later. But, the Falcons rushed 4 and they dropped 7, and they put 5 guys on the goal line. And then they have 2 defenders right there, kind of like deep. And it's tough, man. You're running 4 or 5 guys, depending on what you're doing with Rashad White. Is he staying in the block or whatever? And it's a tight, condensed field, and it favors the defense because you only have so much room to run around and get open. And it's the Falcons there.
And another huge issue is that, teams see it. The Bucs aren't able to run the football, so they'll even dare you to run it, and they won't be able to do that. And it makes it tougher to get the pass game going when you could drop all those guys back.
Yeah.
Moving on to another super chat, Jordan Schneiderman, who we mentioned from watching from Ottawa, Canada, says, and thank you for the super chat, says, why is the D so bad in zone coverage this many years into Bowles' system with the same players? 2021, the excuse was injured corners all year. What is it now? Also, I'll be at the Buffalo game. Will PR.
Appreciate the super chat. Don't have anybody going to Buffalo this week. It's a short week. It's a Thursday night game. That's tough from a travel standpoint for our crew. So we go to some away games, but this is not one of them. So enjoy the game. Hopefully the Buccaneers bounce back and win for you, Jordan. It's a great question. I don't have a great answer, to be honest.
Because it doesn't make sense, right? Like this team has been playing together for a while. Sure, you plug and play some new people, Ryan Neal, for example, and there's really no reason for why the defense should struggle in zone coverage. Again, overall, the defenses look pretty good, so I do feel it is a little bit nitpicking overall. But I guess you could make the argument too. The Falcons kept moving it into the red zone, and then Antoine Winfield Jr. would save the day with forcing fumbles or
they played more man. They played more man in the second half. And if you listen to the TV broadcast, Mark Schlereth even said, because they get the interviews with the coaches, right? The pre-production interviews. And he even said, Todd Bowles said, we're way better in man than we are in zone this year. So Schlereth even put that out there. And I would agree. You can't play man every single down, though, because you can take advantage of that. You have to mix in some zone. So just like you can't play zone every down, you have to mix in some man. It's you have to just try to use your film study and guess which defense is going to be more effective against what you're anticipating the offense will do based upon down and distance, based upon personnel, who's in the group, based upon formation. Are you in 13 personnel, 12, 11? What are you playing, right? And it's just like a dice game, right? It's like you roll your dice, I'll roll mine, and then we'll see who has the higher die in terms of the point value, and then I won this down and you lost, and then the next down you win and I lost. That's it. I'd like to see him play more man. I really would.
Yeah, me too. I think Carlton Davis loves it when he gets to play man to man, especially matchup against Stephon Diggs this week. I think a lot of people would be interested in that one for sure. We got a super chat from Katie. I had the comment start right there as well. Yep, there it is. Kathy. Sorry, my apologies. Kathy Gillespie, thank you for the super chat. Says, I have a question. Does Jason Light pay any mind to the noise that the fans start making? The natives are definitely getting restless, and Todd Bowles seems so stubborn about his ideas. I mean, I remember when Jason Light kind of clapped back at John Ledyard on Twitter when he was being critical of the team. I will say for Bowles, and a little bit with Canals, but Canals is so new and fresh. Yeah. At some point, the message is going to start really wearing thin, because even today, Bowles seemed a little more dejected than he typically is, whether it's a win or a loss. And I'm even getting a bit tired of just hearing like, we got to play better, we got to block better, we did better, we did great in practice. I don't know why it's not working in the game. We got to find a way to score in the red zone. I know you got to find a way to score in the red zone. Like, give me something a little bit more. Why isn't it working in the red zone? What needs to be improved in the red zone? Yeah. And it's a lot of the same thing over and over. And I get it. He doesn't want to give stuff away. He didn't want to go into detail about why, like what happened on the play to Kyle Pitts. He just said it was a busted coverage. Right. And I don't know. I don't think he's helping himself either. But the stubbornness is going to wear off sooner rather than
there's
later.
No doubt. And I'm not about to tell any Buccaneer fan how to feel, think, or react to this. That I completely understand and appreciate any fan's response. The only thing I'll say is, and you know what? Maybe Todd Bowles gets fired at the end of the year. Maybe this thing just spirals out of control. Who knows? What I do know is there's 11 games left in the year. There's more games to be played than have been played. And the Buccaneers are 3-3. They're not
Yeah.
winless like the Carolina Panthers are, right? They're not 1-5. They're 3-3. And you know what? The narrative would have been a heck of a lot different if they scored a touchdown and won that game 17-13 yesterday, right? Fans would have been like, "Oh, well, we need to do better in the red zone, but at least we won and we're 4-2 and we're at top of the division, etc." Like that close to having a completely different narrative and a completely different vibe out there amongst the Pewter people. And I get it.
Yeah.
And I understand the frustration and all of that. And you
it's-
know what, Matt? If this team lost a shootout to the Falcons, right? If they lost 28-27, then I think maybe you feel a little bit better because, okay, at least we can score points, right? I think
and the defense will figure itself out.
Yeah, I think the Bills aren't like gripping like Buccaneer fans are right now that they lost to the Patriots, because that was a bit of a shootout. It wasn't like scoring was an issue, et cetera. They just didn't score enough points, right? For the Buccaneers, they didn't score enough points because they hardly scored any points, right? Just one touchdown, one big play to Mike Evans, and then a couple field goals, and that's it for the offense. So,
and that's been kind of the case for the last 2 weeks. It's a very fine line between winning and losing, but another great way where you can win is with Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code Pewter. That's PEWTER. I have fun every week doing my Pewter picks and props. My player props are okay today. Wasn't great with my Bucs picks, but we live to fight another day. But yeah, use that promo code Pewter, PEWTER. The pick'ems are so much fun. You don't have to just do them for the Bucs games. You could do it for any NFL game or any other sports as well. They have it for multiple sports. You just pick at least 2 players and can win up to 20 times your money by picking stats of higher or lower than certain receiving yards or passing yards or touchdowns. You could do it tonight with the 49ers and the Vikings if you really wanted to. So get a first deposit bonus with the promo code Pewter, PEWTER, and that's with Underdog Fantasy. Let's get back to that super chat because the super chats keep rolling in. Shout out to the Pewter people. Find it one second. Airship Flyer, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, what are the odds we see Kyle Trask for the Texans game if Baker has another bad game versus the Bills this Thursday? Well, if there's any team that Kyle Trask should start against, it's the Houston Texans because he's from the Houston area.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. I think Baker would have to have at least a 3-interception performance.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be really, really bad. I mean, we've seen, for better or for worse, the stubbornness of the coaching staff, whether it's committing to the run or not changing guys. We talked about Luke Gedeke earlier with not benching him last season, how long that took. I think they're going to wait a little bit longer for Baker Mayfield. But if he continues on this same trend, it's going to be hard to say that he should still be starting when you have Kyle Trask waiting in the wings. But, we'll see.
The problem is the minute you go to Kyle Trask, and if Kyle Trask does not steady the ship, if he does not perform well, then at some point in time, what's going to happen? You're going to go back to Baker, right? Anytime you start playing yo-yo at quarterback, it does not end well, right? It does not end in playoffs. It just doesn't. The only time that happens is if your starter goes out with an injury, the backup comes in, kind of steadies things a little bit, maybe goes 2-2 in 4 games. Then the starter comes back in and then picks up where he left off, and then you win and you're in the playoffs. That's not the traditional yo-yo. That's the injury sub, right? But if you're going to bench Baker Mayfield for poor performance against the Buffalo Bills, and I agree, Matt, it would have to be something catastrophic, like 3 or 4 interceptions where he just completely craps the bed. The minute you go to Kyle, you've got to be committed and saying, we're going to be playing this guy the rest of the way, because you're talking about benching a team captain, benching a guy that is adored by his teammates, right? For a guy that doesn't have the C on his chest, that hasn't done squat in the league yet. And you better be right. And you better be in position to understand that we're going to ride Kyle for the rest of the year. And if Kyle Trask doesn't get any wins, then all of a sudden you're talking about firing the head coach, the GM, the offensive coordinator, and blowing everything up. And that is not in Jason Light's prospectus for the 2023 season, nor is it Todd Bowles' prospectus, nor is it in the game plan of Dave Canales to come down to Tampa for 1 year and get fired. So, having said that, I don't think that Kyle Trask will be the starter anytime soon for the Buccaneers. I think it would take several bad games in a row. And I mean, like, not scoring touchdowns and just turning the ball over for Baker Mayfield to be benched. If Todd Bowles if he's not going to bench Ryan Neal right now, okay, then he's not going to bench Baker Mayfield anytime soon. So just take that to the bank.
Yeah. To be honest, I like the way Baker plays. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play the whole season just because of an injury. And again, I'm not advocating for it. I don't want to see that. But it wouldn't shock me if we saw Kyle Trask play this season for one reason or another. But let's get to this super chat from Khalif Young. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. This Khalif says, where's all the creativity we saw in the preseason? Well, Canales kind of answered this last week where he said, we're playing to win the division, and essentially, I don't want to give everything away so teams can watch the tape and say, all right, when they do this, this is what they're running, and et cetera, et cetera. But at some point, you have to say what we're doing right now isn't working, so screw what they're seeing on the tape. We have to figure out how to score touchdowns and move the football down the field consistently. And again, also, Baker's missed some throws where guys have been open.
Yeah.
What do you want Dave Canales to do if the guy's open and Baker misses him? Is that on Dave Canales or is that on Baker Mayfield?
That's right.
I think it's pretty obvious it's on the quarterback.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, we're talking 6 games into the rookie play caller's season, right? I mean, there's 11 games to go. We'll see how creative Dave Canales gets in the red zone, in the game plans as the weeks go on. This is a very short week. This is something new for Dave Canales where he didn't have all this time to study the Bills that he had to study the Lions and the Saints and the other games, right? This is a short week, so this is new for him too. We'll see how he responds and bounces back from that. Folks, I do know one thing. If you give Eric Gross a call at the Eric Gross Group and you're in need of a real estate agent, I know what the answer is going to be. It's going to be, how can I help you? And let's buy or sell your house and find you the right home for your family or get you the most value for your home, right? That's what Eric does. He's a Pro Bowler when it comes to real estate. And the Eric Gross Group, they've done hundreds of transactions in this crazy real estate market. He's got all types of experience in every situation. He's an avid Pewter Report reader. It's a great way to start a conversation with Eric, right? You both enjoy the same football team and then go from there. He's in the relationship business. Their clients are not just transactions, they're lifelong friendships. Eric and his team have got the market knowledge, the top-notch communication, and the commitment to excellent service that sets them apart. He knows this area like the back of his hand, being a Tampa native. With a strong network of vendors and over 85,000 agents, the Eric Gross Group will turn your dream of buying or selling a home into reality. Don't let the stress of buying or selling a home get you out of the game. Let Eric take the pressure off. Find him on Facebook and Instagram at Eric Gross Group. Check out their website, Houses in FLA. It's a great website. Check out their inventory. It's got a great layout to it. housesinfla.com. Or give them a call at 513-907-4271. No matter where you are on your home ownership journey, you're going to feel welcome with the Eric Gross Group, the official realtor of Pewter Report.
By the way, we did talk to Todd Bowles today. We got a couple of quick videos that I'll play. This first one, he's talking about what's not happening in the run game.
It's the same thing. Sometimes it's a block here or there. Sometimes we miss the cut completely, whether it's a lineman or a receiver, and we just got to do a better job as a group. I'm not focused on the runs. I'm focused on trying to win a game. So whatever that's passing or running, we do need to run it better. But if passing the ball helps us win the ball game more, that's what we'll do.
This next one, he talks about the busted play that ended up with Kyle Pitts going down the field and essentially setting up the game-winning field goal.
We busted. You know, that's something we talk about in the meetings. We talk about everything behind closed doors, and we get everything out in the open. That's no need for anybody else to know that.
Was it more of a tackling problem than a coverage problem?
It was a problem, period, from catching the ball.
Todd Bowles proven again he does not want to throw anyone under the bus for any reason whatsoever.
Sure, not publicly. I mean, so here's what happened. And I talked to somebody within the organization that broke the play down for me, and he knows what he's talking about. And Ryan Neal did not get to his landmark in cover 2 quick enough. And once he got there, he was caught flat-footed, and was not able to make the tackle. So then he had to turn and run, give up 21 more yards before Pitts got out of bounds. So it was kind of a double whammy. He wasn't where he was supposed to be in the zone defense, didn't get to that landmark for Tampa 2 for that deep 2 safety, and then was not in position to either break up the pass as a result or make the tackle. So that's what the bust was Ryan Neal. And that's why we've called for him to be replaced. One more thing too. I wrote about this in my 2-point conversion column. Make sure you check that out on pewterreport.com. It dropped early this morning. Matt, I want to see one of the tight ends, either O'Keefe or K. Dotton, taken out of the game and replaced by an extra offensive tackle.
Yes.
We talked about it last night. It worked when the Bruce Arians in 2020 and also 2021 with Joe Haig and then Josh Wells. If you're trying to run the ball and you're being predictable by having O'Keefe in the game because he's a run blocking tight end, he's not a threat in the passing game, why are you using him? Get a 300+ pound guy in there to help you run, capture the perimeter, get around the corner, and free some some alleyway space for whoever is running the ball. That to me makes more sense than having a 255, 260 pound tight end in there who's just not good at blocking, whether it's K. Dotton or whether it's O'Keefe. To put a guy in there who is an offensive lineman and try to power ahead that way, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
You know what else makes sense, Matt, is our friends over at Immuni Financial. They make a lot of sense. They make a lot of dollars too, a lot of dollars and cents. And if you want more dollars and cents in your portfolio, you're going to give our folks over at Immuni a call.
At Muni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
That's right, folks. Managing your wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. With over 40 years of experience, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Give Immuni Financial a call. They can help you not just in the state of Florida, but across the country as well. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 or visit them on the web at immuni.com. Matt, this show has flown by today. We can get another one tomorrow. That's right, folks, not Wednesday. Because of the short week, we're coming right back at you tomorrow with our Bucs versus Bills preview. We'll be talking to Dave Canales tomorrow, Baker Mayfield, Larry Foote, and also all the players in the locker room. So this game's coming up quick. We get the preview for you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, not Wednesday. No show on Wednesday. 4 o'clock, and then we'll have our post-game Pewter Report podcast, and that is going to be Thursday night after the Bucs versus Bills game on Amazon Prime, Matt.
Yeah, and please make sure you're following us on all of our social media at Pewter Report on X, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe, help grow our audience. Would really appreciate that from you guys. We got 2 more quick super chats to get to before we end the show. UK Prince says, isn't Delaney more a cornerback than safety, and Neal's more of a strong safety than free safety? Seem like since we let Whitehead walk, it's still biting us. So they do cross-train D. Delaney at corner and safety. He's more than capable of playing both, and he's played both in the preseason as well, and played safety when Ryan Neal got hurt. Right. So he already replaced him. But thank you for the super chat. And Beats McGee, $5 says, I noticed that Baker is taking more chances down the field and not take the easy play. And after the pick, he started playing scared. This is a concern. He's just not making the best decisions right now throwing the football. He's making poor decisions. That one in the red zone was absolutely inexcusable. And he needs to pick it up. He needs to pick it up.
Well said, man. Nothing else to add. Well said. He does. He's got to play better. Dave Canales is going to do the right thing and throw the ball more than run it. Then you lean on your quarterback. He's got to deliver. He's got to deliver head-to-head against Josh Allen and the Bills on Thursday night. Please join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock for our Bucs versus Bills preview. Matt and I will be right back here in just less than 24 hours to talk Bucs and Bills and have all the locker room insight and the press conference insight as well. So.
All right, so that's going to do it for us for today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thank you, everybody, for watching. We love you, Pewter people, and we'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Oh, thanks for the super chats.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.